For lesson 8, we're going to be talking about vector drawing techniques. So we'll talk about the pen tool, and we're also going to talk about the shape tool a little bit. So what I did was I found a coloring sheet. It's a geometric coloring sheet. It's kind of like a mandala. You can use this one. You can find one of your own. But the first part, I want you to kind of follow along with me, and then you can either use the mandala that I have given you, or you can find something else that you want to use in a coloring sheet that you can kind of practice this pen tool and your shape tools on, okay? And I want you to complete the coloring sheet just based off using those two tools. The more you practice this pen tool, the easier it becomes. It is a very difficult tool for a lot of students at first, but the more you play with it and the more you get to know it, it will become one of your favorites, and it will be able to help you a lot. If you've taken Illustrator, or if you've worked in Illustrator before, you're going to know how wonderful this tool is once you get to learn it. So it's just another way of using it in this program as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up my mandala. But I'm going to create a new blank sheet on top of it and fill it with white paint. The reason I want to do this is I want to show you a couple different techniques before we get into this. And so I'm going to kind of show you a couple basics of this tool, tools. So the first tool we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about these rectangle tools and all of your shape tools down here. So the shape tools work in two different ways. The first way is you're going to click and you're just going to drag and draw. And then you can fill it over here using any of the colors that you want to fill it with. You can also add strokes around it if you wanted to. And let me pull my layers down so I can see what I'm doing. And you can add a layer around it, or a stroke around the layer if you wanted to. Okay. Again, like I think we've talked about this in the past, you will see that there's a difference to this layer tool now, or to this layer. It's now a shape layer. You can't go back and paint on top of it. You can't go back and erase it. It's a specific type of layer. If you wanted to do something like that and turn it into just an image layer so that you can manipulate it more, you just have to right click on it and do rasterize layer, and then that switches it down into an actual image layer, and you would be able to make edits to it. Okay, now with that being said, I'm going to go all the way back and turn it back into a shape layer. Now with the shape layer, you can do a couple different things. You can use it just as shapes. You can come over here, you can make adjustments to it, change size, change different things like that as a shape. But you can also use it as a path. So let's go to our ellipse tool, and I'm going to draw a circle. So now that I have this circle, I didn't want a whole circle, I wanted a half a circle. So I could use it like I did earlier. I could rasterize it, turn it into a shape image, and cut off part of it. And then, instead of doing a stroke around it, I could have done a stroke around the actual image using my effects instead of doing the stroke around the shape. So there's different ways of doing this, but to do it one other way is to come over here, and I'm going to grab my direct path tool, right, or my direct selection tool right here, and I'm going to click on this circle, and I'm going to double click on this bottom anchor point. Now I want a half circle. I don't want to have to do a whole lot more to it. I'm going to zoom actually in on it so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. So I'm going to delete a layer. So I'm going to come down here to delete anchor point, and I'm going to click on it under my pen tools. Now it's going to ask me if I want to take it from a live shape tool into a regular path. I'm going to say yes. Oh, stop that. Delete it. Yes. Okay, so now what I can do is come over here and grab I have a little hissy fit. Let's do this one more time. Yes. Now I want to change my tool. Yes. I'm going to just delete that point. And then I'm going to come over here and grab my convert path tool. And I'm going to click both of these so that they're no longer curved points. And then I can play, I can play with these right here. If I go back to my direct tool, and I can like curve these out. So you can use this as an actual path and be able to make adjustments to it and get that curve that you want, and make it into a half circle. Okay, so you can delete anchor points, you can add anchor points, you can do all those things that you could do if you were working with a path with these shape tools. You just have to tell it that you want it to do it as a path and not as a shape. And that's where this direct selection, whoops, tool comes in right here. And then under the pen tool, you have lots of different options to choose from. So if you wanted to add an anchor point in, on your path, you could come over here and add an anchor point in and then use your direct selection tool and be able to manipulate that one. I grabbed the wrong one. There we go. And then I could be able to manipulate that. And I could even come back up here and do convert point and make it an angle. So you can manipulate that path all you want. Okay, so that's kind of nice. So you don't have to use it just as a shape tool. You can see over here though that it is showing still as a shape tool. And I still could not paint on it. I still could not erase on it. So again, you would have to rasterize that image to be able to do that. Okay, the next thing we need to talk about is the pen tool. So, oh, one more thing about the shape tool before I switch. So if you're on a shape tool, you can simply click and drag to draw your shape. The other thing that's nice about this is you can double click on the board and you can tell it what size you want. So if you knew you wanted a 1" by 2" oval, you could type that in and hit OK, and it would create that for you. If you wanted to do the same thing with the polygon tool, if you double click on it, it'll let you choose the number of sides you want. So if I wanted 6 sides on my polygon and I wanted it 3 inches, oh, it's set to pixels. I gotta do 3IN to 3IN. Tell it I want 6 sides, hit OK, and I had the star option chosen. Right there. Click off that star option. Hit OK. Why is it doing this now? Oh, my star ratio. Your star ratio should already be set to 100%. I was playing with mine earlier, so that's why it was doing that. But you can do that. So let's go through that one more time since I had all my settings wrong. So if you double click with the polygon tool, you can change your width and your height. You can change your number of sides. And if your star ratio is at 100, then you'll have an actual polygon. If you play with it and change your star ratio down to a lower amount, you can turn it into a star. Okay, so there we go. So those are the shape tools. Now I have multiple layers, so I can't do that. Come down here and select them all and delete them. There we go. Now with the pen tool. The pen tool is one of those tools that you simply have to play with it to learn it. It can be kind of finicky. It can have a little bit of an attitude, but it works really well. I use it a lot for clipping. So clipping means when you have an image and you want to cut out one part, instead of using like your selection tools or your object selection tools, you just clip it using the pen, and it's going to give you that nice clean edge that you choose. Okay, so the way this works is if you want to create a straight line, you click and let go, and you have a straight line. Now, you can keep going with it, and it'll keep connecting to what you're doing unless you hit escape. And then that creates your actual path. And if we come over to our layers panel, the last one says path. You can see here's my path. Now that I have a path, I can come down here and I could fill it if it was a shape. I mean, I can fill it now too, but it's going to fill into my zigzags. Or I can just stroke the path. And by stroking the path, what it's doing is it's going based off of your paintbrush. So my paintbrush right now is not super huge, so it's just using my paintbrush. And you can change those settings as well. So if I went and I changed my paintbrush size, you can see now it's really big. Okay. And then to get off the path, you just click down here off of the actual working path right there. And now I have this nice little zigzag that I can work with. Okay. Next is if you wanted to create a curve, you're going to click and then you're going to click and hold your button down and you drag. And that's how you're going to create the curve. Now, what this will do is it automatically kind of tells you what it thinks the next curve should be based on where you click your mouse again. So if I click over here, it's going to automatically tell me it thinks it should be over here. Now, if this isn't the curve you want it, instead of clicking, you just click and drag and you can adjust. But still, sometimes it doesn't quite work the way you want it, or you want to go from a curve into a straight line, then you just have to reset it. So you press and hold Alt and you click on that last point that you made, and now it's going to reset for you. So now it goes to a straight line, or if you click and drag, you have a little bit more control over where you want that curve to be. It's not starting it for you. And again, when you get to the end, you just hit escape and you have that path. And if we go into paths, we can now see we have a whole new working path. This one's not our working path anymore. You can also make shapes this way. So if you click, 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 and if long as I go back to the very first one, you'll see that it had my cursor goes from being a fountain pen to a fountain pen with a circle. It's now telling me that it's a shape. And if I wanted to fill it, it's going to fill it in as a shape. Okay, so let's go over to this mandala and let me get off my path. Now, if this was a path I wanted to keep, I could rename it and create a new working path. You just right click on it and you can tell it what to do. Okay, you can make a new selection out of it. You can delete the path. You can fill the path, stroke the path. And you can also come down here to the little plus sign and make a whole new path, and then it's going to keep your other path. Okay. So let's go back over to layers. We're going to delete this one. Now, to do this, I want you to go ahead and create a new layer on top, a new blank layer. Now, this mandala is a little wonky. For anybody that's like I am, the lines are not straight enough for me. It's not clean enough. Feel free to manipulate this a little bit or clean it up, in my words, if you want to, or like I said, if you find one on your own that you want to do. So we're going to start off with the simple shapes first. So I'm going to drag, first I'm going to open my rulers if my rulers aren't open. Go to view and make sure rulers has a check mark. This is the easiest way to get your guides working. So now I can bring this over. I can just click on my ruler, drag over to the right and make a guide. And then same thing at the top, drag down and make a guide. This is the easiest way to make a circle and keep it, maintain its shape. So I know I want the circle to start here and start here. So I'm going to take my circle tool. I'm going to come up here to the top where the two lines meet, my two guides meet. I'm going to press and hold shift to make a circle. Whoops, and I went too. There we go. And I'm going to make a circle right on top of it. Now, if you wanted an oval, you would just not hold shift. Shift is going to make it a circle. And I'm going to turn my stroke off. So right here where it has stroke, I'm going to go down and put it to 0. I don't want a stroke on it. And now you see I have this nice little circle. The black around it's the coloring sheet, so my stroke is gone. Now I'm going to close this one and I'm going to grab my move tool, and by using my move tool, I can move these grid marks that I've already made, or guide marks I've already made. And I'm going to drag them down to the next circle. And again, line them up in between. I do not have to make a new layer because every time I use the shape tool, it automatically makes a new layer for me. I'm going to press and hold shift. And this is one of those lines that's really wonky that's bothering me. So I'm going to clean up that line. Now, right now, if we had them all open, they're all red. Feel free to change the colors on them as you go, or you can change the colors at the end if you want. You have all your little swatches here. You just click on the fill box and you can change your colors. Now I'm going to come over here and grab my move tool again. I'm going to move this one more time because I have one more circle here and create another one. Now, when I do something like this, I always start from the back and work my way front. If you want to start from the front and work your way back, you can do that as well. You'll just have to relayer your layers as you go, okay? And then do my little eyeball right here. There we go. Boop. My circles. So I could go ahead. Well, I mean, I have that one oval in the center if I want to do it. I can go ahead and do two different things with my guides. Usually I take my guides and I just move them over to the side and off the artboard. That way, if I need them again, I have them. I don't have to start from scratch. You can also come up here to view and clear guides, and it'll clear the guides for you. And then you can start completely from scratch if you want. Okay. So now we have our circles made. So you can see I have all the circles here. And it was nice enough to put my stroke back onto the ones that I made. So I don't want my strokes, so I just turned them all off. And all I did was I selected them all at one time. So choose the top one, choose the bottom one, or choose the top one, hold, press and hold shift, choose the bottom one, and then I can just turn my stroke down to 0. It makes my stroke go away. And then I could come in here and let's say I want this one red. I'm going to do a whole rainbow thing because why not? And then I'll do, there's no orange. Huh, okay, well, I guess I'll do yellow next. And then this one, I'll change to green because that's the next color on here. And then this one, I will change to blue. And those are really bright colors. Okay, so now I have my circles done. Nice, easy, simple. So now I'm going to go back and do some of the more difficult ones. So for these little swirls right here, let's go for the little swirls. We're going to do one of these little flames that's coming out of the little sun shape. We do need to create a new layer because we're going to be working with the pen tool. You're going to grab your pen tool, and the easiest way to do something like this is we're going to create by curve. So this one's going to have 4 curves to it. So I'm going to click down here, and I'm going to click right where the 2 curves kind of come together, and I'm going to click and hold and drag. And now, like I said earlier, if you wanted to, you can let it start the next one and you can click and drag. If it's not doing what you want, like down here, it's not exactly where I want it to be. I'm going to do Control Z and go back a step. Press and hold Alt on that last one that I did, and I'm going to change my anchor point so that I can reset it. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to tell it where to go. There we go. Again, press and hold Alt, convert the anchor point, come to the middle, click and drag, reset the anchor point, click and drag. Now, as you get better with the pen tool, you won't have to reset your anchor point maybe as much. I just do it because I like to have that control over it. Now you can do a couple different things with this. Now we have it all the way around. We can either come to our paths and we can fill it right here, and it'll use whatever fill colors in our foreground color. So it would be red. You could stroke it. So you could put the line around it. Or you can turn it into a selection and fill that selection. Okay. Or if it was a selection, you can turn it back into a path right here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill it. So I'm just going to click on this one. And again, I have it done. So I'm going to click right here to get rid of the path around it. And I'm going to go to my layer, and it's right here in my layer 1. Now, if you wanted a nice, easy way of cheating, you can just copy this and move it all the way around. I ask that you do a couple of these just to get the practice in. It's going to work a lot better for you if you get some practice. Then you're going to come over here and we're going to do this line. Now I'm going to do this on a separate layer just so that I can keep my layers separate in case I want to move them later. And what I'm going to do is for this one, I'm going to click on one end and I'm going to click on the other end, and I can see if I can make that curve, which, yeah, you can pretty much make that curve pretty cleanly. And when I get to the end, I'm going to hit escape. Now this is not a shape. This is just a line. So we can just come over to paths and we can stroke that line. Okay, so now if I come back to my, oh, go back to my path, activate that path. Now you can see we have this little shape right here. We also have this path. Now you can change, I select that back. You can change how you stroke the paths, the thickness that you want. You can come up and change it to a shape. You can, like that. If you wanted to make it into a half circle there, you can change your brush size. You can change the color by, make this black, stroke the path. Now it's black. So you can change those however you want and make differences to them, okay? So for this assignment, I just want you to go ahead and finish out your drawing. Take a look at what it looks like, and you're going to save it as a Photoshop file as always, and then flatten it and save it as a PSD or save it as a JPEG and turn that JPEG into me. Like I said, feel free to use my coloring sheet or find one of your own. If you have any questions, please reach out and I will get you some answers.